denied post-treatment infections. And Kaplan made analysis to evaluate the survival rates of the patient in Iraq at 1 year to 2 years. The total number of deceased donor transplants was 64, 51 made. Following by the source of the graph, the majority from Rajiv Gandhi Government Medical Hospital, May 42, and the next was from Stanley Medical College, talking about this, and the rest from CMC Vellore and other private medical colleges from 1700 others. Following by the cause of brain death in the donors, the road traveling accident, leading the list, and fall from height, and other causes as mentioned. Following by the native disease noted in our population, it was not known, presumed to be CGN or CAN46, and IgN appropriate age, and FHS, SLE, and hereditary and alcohols in others. None of them had diabetic ASR. Following by the observation of this, the mean duration of the hemodialysis prior to transplant was 1.5 years, and the overall mean age of the recipient donor was 31 and 33 years. It was more or less equal, and we used student cryptograph and alpha-generic STK solution as a per organ perfusion solution in all of our transplant. The mean cold discharge time was 8.2 hours. Following the immunosuppression protocol that we use in all college induction regions is available very recently, and we have used in 5 patients free of cost. ATG in 3 patients and Basilicimab in 2 patients. ATG we use in 50 mg single dose of the sugar. Basilicimab 20 mg, third dose on day 0 and day 4. And tacrolimus 0.1 mg plus 80 weight, included by Basilicimab 500 mg twice daily dosage. And prednisolone 0.5 mg per kg per day, equal to Basilicimab over the 4. Following the post-operative complications encountered, right lower limb ischemia in 1 patient, 2 had contracted and 3 had to undergo graft tracheotomy, and 6 patients had each year. And infection, sepsis contributed to the early mortality in 10 patients, and pneumonitis in 7 patients, and recurrent QTA and BK virus in 1 patient, and 1 had an SCV deactivation PCL in 1. And axillary renal arteries was found in 90, triple in 3, and 11 in 16 patients. And during the follow-up, 7% acute cellular rejection and antibody-mediated rejection was found in 2, and biopsy-81 was observed in 6 patients. The mean follow-up time of our patients was 3 years. The recent mean serum creatinine was 0.8. NODAC and post-treatment erythrocytosis was observed in 6 patients. Following the survival rate of our patients, out of 64 patients, 23 died. The patient survival rate at 1 year was 18%, and the graft survival rate at 1 year was 73.5%. The 4-year patient graft survival rates were 61.7% and 8.8% respectively, as analyzed by the Kaplan-Meier survival chart. Those red crosses are the sensor data, and most of the deaths occurred in the first 6 months. And patients who had a functioning heart but died due to infectious complications like pneumonitis are considered as sensor data. And following the common cause of death, sepsis topping the list, accounting for 12 patients and pneumonitis in 8. Following is the list of cadaver renal transplant year-wise distribution. Though it had started in 1996, it started gathering momentum only after 2008, and in the year 2010 there was a peak about 18 cadaver renal transplants. In Tamil Nadu we have a multi-organ sharing network. So 563 kgs we have shared with the public and the private hospitals. And total number of organ shared was 1,741. The mission statement of this multi-organ network is organs wasted or lives lost. Following are the conclusions of my study, with survival rates of deceased donor transplantation comparable to that of life-related donor transplantation, deceased donor transplantation is a need of the hour, creating a positive public attitude, early brain death identification and certification, and prior consent for organ donation, adequate hospital infrastructure, and support logistics are prerequisites for making a successful organ transplantation. The state of Tamil Nadu will definitely be a good role model in this. Thank you.
Any comments from the audience?
I'm sure, honestly, if you ask most of the centers, if you ask most of the centers across India, most of the outcomes should be similar to what we have projected here. So minor difference in the outcome, but infection remains the most common cause which you have highlighted. And 1 year 71% survival is no different from what is at least personal discussion which we have. But when we see in the literature and what is sometimes presented in the conference, I don't know whether they are really correct figures, saying 85%, 90%, sometimes even 95% plus survival, graft survival, 100% patient survival. I wish at least in our lifetime, we see a phase where we have that sort of statistics for our patients. I congratulate you again for it.
Thank you. The same thing, I want to congratulate Dr. Emery for doing this wonderful job. The first transplant was done in my period when I was there, but at the time we never had even cyclosporin. We had only Azuran and this one. So that was a lady of the third transplant. The first two were like two of her parents, and then this was the third one. And of course it was rejected in a month or so. But subsequently she lived with dialysis and CAPD for nearly 10 years after that. But this is a very, very phenomenal work by Standing Group, and the survival is excellent. I think this availability of induction therapy, I think this survival is going to be as good as alive. Congratulations to you and
congratulate the group for what they have done. I have a small scientific question. For 8 patients and 9 of them received induction. About 8 of them. Totally 5. What happens when, because the maximum cause of the loss of patients are
what is the outcome in these 5?
In these 5 would make a difference, because see, in practice if you see, there is a saying that in whatever we must use induction. And as a government setting, and in hospitals where the patients cannot pay, we do away with induction. When we do away with induction, this sort of the survival is what we get. But I want to know, in those cases induction, if you do better and if you do worse in a government setting, because infection seems to be the major cause of loss.
Other cases are better after 3 and 4 months of follow-up. Nobody had any rejection. They have been any stable coverage. That means only followed up for 4 to 5 months they have been using injection.
Actually, Basilicimac in EDG has been made available by the government recently. So now, as a protocol, we use for everyone. Again, Valgancetol is not available. So most of the patients will have Basilicimac available. We would love to use for everyone. But it's been recently made available from now on. These, even the other patients, I must say, though the literature says that it was used they have been doing recently.
They have been doing recently, but there is a thing, if you see, there is a
drive by many people to use induction. There is like, people say mitochondrial is better. No, we have come back to Azar and saying it is as good as mitochondrial. Now I want to know, because I also don't use induction. I work in little better than government setup. So I just compliment you on what you are doing. But I wanted to see in a government setup, if you use induction, what happens to infections. That's what I want to do.
Actually, what we do is all these patients are waiting on the cadaver list. We see them every month. They come, though they are dialysis elsewhere. So we make sure that they are fairly well reasonably healthy before we put them on the list. Yeah, most of them are here.
not diabetic.
Not diabetic.
That's what I said. You've got a very good population. Very good.
Diabetics, we do a coronary angiogram. Coronary angio is fine, and iliac was an angio is fine. Only
That's
put them on the list. Otherwise, we don't do.
See, young, non-diabetic, and got a relatively young donors. That's the plus point.
Next couple of years, otherwise
We'll follow it up.
let us know. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next paper.
So our aim is to study the prevalence and clinical spectrum of infection in transplant recipients and to analyze the risk factors for infection. And it's a retrospective study and over a period of 10 years from January 2002 to 2012. And we included renal transplant recipients with at least 1 month of follow-up. 50% of the total infection episode is occurred within 6 months, that is in the peak time of immunosuppression. Coming to bacterial infection is the most common, occurs for 45% of the total infection episode, and E. coli is the commonest organism isolated, and coming to the site of infection, urinary tract infection is the common, followed by bacteria and ADT. Coming to viral infections, it occurs for around 34% of the total infections, and in the phase 1 it's a herpes simplex and herpes zoster and varicella zoster, and phase 2 CMV was the most common viral infection, and in phase 3 HSV was the most common, around 60 patients. And coming to miscellaneous viral infections, parvovirus and adenovirus was noted in 4 in each, and 1 patient developed HIV infection. And coming to CMV infection, total episodes, 9% of the total infection episodes at a mean time of 5.2 months. And the most common syndrome is CMV syndrome, followed by colitis, and then followed by skin and parietal abscess. Retinitis was present in 3% of the patient. Coming to the HCV, mean time of development of HCV is 1.85 years, and it occurred for 8.5% of the total infection, and it's commonly occurred in phase 3, it's more than 6 months. And fungal infection, it occurred for 9.7% of the total infection episodes, and Candida was the most commonest isolated, and UTI is the most common site at phase 1, and in phase 2 and 3, it's the oral respiratory disease, it's most commonly Candida. And tuberculosis occurred for around 7% of the total infection at a mean time of 24, and the most common site of tuberculosis is pulmonary, followed by nodal and pulmonary. And lastly, infection occurred for around 5% of total infection. Amoebiasis was the most common infection, followed by stomatitis. So when we analyze the risk factors for these infections, delayed graft function, graft dysfunction, and immunosuppression regimen, and anti-rejection therapy, leukopenia, and NODAD, serious toxicity, and prior HCV infection, and the class symbol in red side is statistically significant association between the risk factors and the infections. And in the graph, there was no statistical significance noted. And for UTI, serious toxicity and TAPRO, usage of tacrolimus, MMF, and allergen are the significant risk factors. And for CMV, graft dysfunction and usage of mebutalmofetil and anti-rejection therapy, leukopenia are the noted risk factors. And for tuberculosis, leukopenia and NODAD and prior HCV infection are the risk factors. And for fungal infections, delayed graft function and anti-rejection therapy, leukopenia, serious toxicity, and prior HCV infection are the risk factors for fungal infections. So in the multivariate analysis, NODAD, graft dysfunction, and leukopenia are the independent risk factors for the development of multiple episode of infection. And CMV infection was associated with increased incidence of HCV and fungal infection. HCV infection was associated with higher incidence of NODAD, p-value of less than 0.1, and increased incidence of intestinal fibrosis and tuberculosis in the biopsy. Type of NODAD is liver, cadaver, pre-transplant diabetes, and hypertonia. They didn't have any correlation with the risk of infection episodes in the post-transplant. And 20.4% of deaths occurred at the mean time of 50.1 months, and infection causes around more than 50% of the death, followed by nearly 33%. So coming to the infection-related mortality, bacterial sepsis was
Do they have stents inside?
Yes, not only for cadaver TB.